Welcome back to Arbroath Beach for another spectacular day of rock pooling. And today's rock pooling started off, literally within 2 or 3 steps from the sand to the rock with a really exciting find. And I found, and here I know where this grows, and I was really pleased because there's so much more of it growing than I expected it to be, is wild seagrass. And it was great to see. This is a really threatened species. It's the only plant that lives in the marine environment, and it's growing here on the beach, and it's fantastic to see. Now I actually have a whole video on seagrass talking a lot more in detail about its importance and what you can do to help kind of protect it and what to do if you find it, so go check out that video there. But it's just a wonderful encounter to have with seagrass at the start of a rock pooling trip, and it boded well for the entire rock pooling session, which was, equally fantastic. What I love about Arbroath is, depending on what type of rock pooling you fancy, the different ends of the shore and even in the middle are all different, and you kind of find different species. And here there's lots of these big boulders, but at super low tide you can walk past all these boulders and you drop down to this kind of lot lower level, and you can just walk out into the sea. It's full of seaweeds and just full of rocks and just all these hidden places which you're just calling out for there to be fantastic marine life in. And it's a really cool rock pooling experience. Whereas at the other end of the shore, there you can walk out into the sea, but it's all covered in kelp, and it's interesting to see the differences between a more seaweed dominated part of the sea versus like a kelp forest part of the sea. I just love looking at the underwater environment. It's just like another world. I can't help but imagine myself as this tiny human swimming through it. It's just incredible, and this whole mindset change from worrying about the normal world to just thinking about what you would be if you were like a tiny fish by putting on your wellies and just coming rock pooling is amazing. Found the lovely alien blobs that are polychaete worm eggs, ready to, hatch whenever they grow up enough. The next species I filmed I couldn't believe, because I had spent literally the day before most of the rock pooling trip trying to film these in focus and struggling, because look, they are almost entirely transparent, and this fish species is fantastic. It's difficult to ID, so either it is a transparent goby and this is kind of its adult form, or it could potentially be a juvenile type of gurnard. It's really difficult at this tiny stage to ID, but just take in its beauty. It's amazing. The rocky shore always seems to be in such turmoil, but it's really nice to see, a reminder that these species live here for years, and this limpet is absolutely, completely giant and must have lived there for so long. At this part of the shore there's also a lot of rocks, which of course as a rock pooler I can't help but lift up. So let's see what amazing creatures we find on the bottom of these rocks. Lots of sponges, bryozoans, which are really cool. Each little dot in that is actually its own individual organism, and it forms a colony together. So you're actually looking at hundreds of little individuals there giving you a wave. This is a type of colonial sea squirt, and I always refer to this species as snot because it just looks like snot. It feels like snot, and it pretty much behaves like snot, except for the fact that it's alive. So sorry there to anyone who doesn't like all the nose stuff. This is something I recently discovered was a thing. It's a netted dog whelk, and I kind of looked it up because these whelks just looked a bit too spiky. I wondered if maybe it was like a fresh shell that had been made and that the spikes got worn away, but no, it's a specific species. If you kind of see a rougher little dog whelk with all these spines on, it is a netted dog whelk. Here is a lovely pair of beadlet anemones, some sponges, some tube worms. Some gorgeous wee juvenile crabs. I mean, look how tiny it is. It's the smallest edible crab I think I've ever seen, with its gorgeous, gorgeous green eyes staring at it. Oh my goodness, it could get me to do anything with just its cute little crab face. He's still cute, but potentially slightly less cute and more powerful, slightly bigger edible crab, but that still gorgeous green eyes and spotted kind of purple shell. So these are a form of tube worm. So worms inside these white tubes form a stone kind of shell, and I think that's incredible. But you see those all the time, but what you don't often see is the worms, like feeding appendages, come out from the inside, and it's not often that they stay out once something, you know, as big and ugly as a human comes along. And I was just really lucky to be able to spot this one and even see it, you know, using those little imagine they're cirri on the, they're called cirri, like feathery like appendages to kind of catch all the little like nutrients and plankton coming through the water so that it can feed. My heart pretty much melted when I found this tiny snail on a bit of kelp. It's so tiny. It's so tiny. Oh my goodness, look at him go. Go little man, go. So small. This is actually the only flatfish sighting I have had all year, and it was very calm and it was quite beautiful. They're very difficult to ID at this size. My mind is flipping between either a place because it has those orange spots, but it also has these white spots down the side, and it's kind of more patterned like a flounder. So I suppose as it grows, that distinction will kind of work its way in. Soles also have those white spots down the side, so it could also be one of them. I apologise to this fish just in case I've got it wrong and it's offended. One of the flatfish species is what it is. But a welcome find. I saw loads of flatfish in previous rock pooling vlogs. Just seems that this year they might not be as about. They could have been about whilst lockdown in April, but maybe they all just disappeared off by then, or it's just not a great year for them. Frustratingly, this was filmed before I got a new camera set up, and all the audio for this rock pooling vlog was ruined, which is why you're hearing me narrate everything and you're not seeing my face. But I was very, very bemused by the fact that I had a hitchhiker of this dog whelk attached to my rucksack, and I hadn't put this rucksack down the entire time I had been rock pooling so far. So I just wanted to include that this was a very outrageous dog whelk that decided he wanted to be with the humans, and unfortunately I had to put him back. It was like the anti-Little Mermaid. I'm sorry. Ariel, the dog whelk. When rock pooling, you often come across these, you know, big gatherings of snails, and no points for guessing what they're probably up to in these large gatherings. Having some fun. Here seem to be two best friends, a chitin and an anemone. They just seem to be like giving each other a hug, and I found that really sweet. Oh. So I lifted up this rock, this very big rock, and was amazed and saw the biggest edible crab I have ever seen, ever, and just had to catch it, and then realised I was trying to catch it with the wrong hand. It was really strong. It was definitely a challenge to pick up, but I just needed to show you just how big it was. But I'm slightly disappointed with the footage because it was a lot bigger and a lot more powerful in real life, and now I'm looking at it and it doesn't look that big at all. And I swear to you, it was honestly, it just seemed like the biggest edible crab I've ever seen, and I'm really gutted that it looks tiny on camera. Now look, I know he's not, but doesn't it look like the crab is farting? Oh my goodness. A very brief snippet of a sand goby. A bristleworm wiggling its way across the bottom of a rock. You can see it's a bristleworm because it's got lots of bristles on it. Smart naming, eh? A lovely, lovely common shrimp. Always love finding one of these. It brings a massive smile to my face. So the squat lobsters this rock pooling year have decided that they're going to completely show me up, because in my first rock pooling vlog back I complained just how frustrating they are to film, and they really were frustrating to film, except for this year I have found hundreds of them and filmed loads of them, and they've been really amenable to being filmed. I think I probably offended them as they heard me complaining on the shore and decided to show me what's what, and I'm very grateful, and I apologise, but I'm very grateful to the lovely squat lobsters that are finally being, you know, happy in front of the camera, and it's incredible to see them up close. This is a type of scale worm which is slightly different to the bristle worm in the sense that you can kind of see it's made up of all these overlapping circles, and they're called scale worms because, you know, they're scales, and I'm just finding so many of them this year, and I just think they're so beautiful. Common prawn was a great find because you can see the white dot markings on them, and for a species that's almost transparent, these white dots are really incredible and help them stand out, but they're also so, you know, almost methodically put on. It seems mathematic that they're in the correct positions, and I love finding them when those white dots are really, you know, really accessible, because you just see that their marking is so deliberate, and I wonder why those white dots are so important to them. goby looking at us all coy in the corner. Goodbye to the crab that didn't want to be messed with, as most crabs don't. That is the end of this week's video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next week for another video.